So, warning you now, this is going to be a very long video. The song I've chosen to do is 10 minutes. So, yeah, I had a lot of song options, and then I was stupid enough to decide my favorite song was All Too Well by Taylor Swift, 10-minute version off of her re-record of Red that came out in November 2021. Now, the history of this song is really, really complicated. I'm not going to get into all of it, but in short, in 2012, Taylor Swift released the album Red, and it was a really good album. Should have won a Grammy. And All Too Well was a longer song off the album. It was 5 minutes, and it was arguably the most popular song on the album, even though it really didn't get much radio time. It really blew up because people were trying to figure out who is this about, because the song was about Taylor Swift kind of digging at an ex for ruining a really good relationship, and how she put her all into this relationship, and she's like, this is my soulmate, and he threw it away. She gave him her everything, and he threw it away. Eventually found out that the song All Too Well was about Jake Gyllenhaal. It was a whole thing. However, despite it being really, really popular, it wasn't like a great song. It was a good song, but it wasn't the best thing in the world. It wasn't my favorite song of hers. Definitely not my favorite song ever. But then when she released the re-record in this past November, she released a version of All Too Well that was 10 minutes long. She doubled the length of the song, which can fit a lot more content in it. And it immediately became my favorite song of all time. Because while the vocals are very average for Taylor Swift, the instrumentals were nothing to write home about. The lyrics shine. The lyrics are amazing. And as I'm a writer, I love writing. I love symbolism and imagery, and this song has so much imagery and symbolism. It's written almost like a poem or like a spoken word piece. It's so good. And it also, I have notes down here, so if I look down, I'm looking at my notes, yeah. So, and it conveys all of these emotions very beautifully, and it flows between happiness and sadness, and it talks about the good parts of this relationship, it talks about the bad parts of this relationship, and all of the feelings she feels that are complicated, and I could go over this whole song and analyze the whole song, and it would take me like 2 hours, so I'm gonna keep it to only a few verses. So before I hop into analyzing the song and talking about it, one of the questions was, what's the genre? The genre is, I would say it's indie pop. Taylor Swift kind of does her own thing. It definitely is more poppy than any other genre, but typically each album is pop with some kind of influence, with an exception of her first 2 albums, which are very, very country. But I would say that Red is indie pop with some country influence. So yeah, there's that out of the way. Let's hop right into the song. Again, the instrumentals are nothing to write home about. There's like a bass, a guitar, a piano, a drum. Very basic instrumentals. The lyrics are what's important to talk about. So the first lyric I'm going to talk... I have a lot of lyrics, by the way. So yeah, it's going to be a long video. The first lyric I want to talk about is... and as we were driving down, I was thinking that he's going to say it's love, but you never called it what it was. Until we were dead and gone and buried, you checked the pulse and came back swearing it's the same after 3 months in the grave, and then you wondered where it turned to, and I reached for you, but all I felt was shame as you held my lifeless frame. So this song has a kind of a lot in it, but it explains a lot of context in the song. It kind of tells the whole story a little bit of how Taylor was so in love with, I was going to say the boyfriend, but it's Jake Gyllenhaal. I'm just going to say Jake. Taylor was so in love with Jake, and she was like, she thought he loved him too, but she was never sure because he never told her. And even though she loved him so much, she did know if he loved her back, and he never told her that he loved her back until they had been broken up for 3 months. They were 3 months in the grave. And then that's when he decided to check the pulse of their relationship and be like, hey, yo, homie, I love you too. I feel the same. And then he told her that he loved her, and then her being overwhelmed with all the complicated emotions, she reached out for him. They embraced, and then she still felt like he was ashamed of her. A main theme of the song, and something that is probably a main reason their relationship didn't succeed, is because he was very ashamed of her. He was not proud to be dating her. He did not want to be seen in public with her. He did not want to introduce his friends or family to her. He was ashamed of her, and in this like kind of last embrace, she still felt that. And that is when her love for him died, and she became a lifeless frame of the love she used to have for him. It is probably one of the lyrics that has like the most meaning in the song, just because there's so much in it, and that's why I love it so much. And it's also very symbolic, because it doesn't tell us directly what happens. It's described very poetically and very image driven. It's like 3 months in the grave, you held my lifeless frame, until we were dead and gone and buried. Like, it doesn't tell us what happened, but it leaves us enough where it paints a very clear picture of what happened, despite not telling us. This next lyric that I like isn't that phenomenal, but I like it because it is very relatable to me in my personal experience. I'm just going to talk about it really quick. It is the lyric, "I forgot about you long enough to forget why I needed to." This is kind of showing that a few months down the line, she's grown enough where she doesn't think about Jake that often. But when she does, she forgets all the bad, and she just remembers the good. But the more she thinks about this relationship from the past, and the more she thinks about it, the more she remembers how bad it was, the more she remembers the pain, and the cycle of grief starts over again. I love this lyric because it's so relatable. Then there is one of my favorite aspects of the song is up next. So in the song, the chorus is, I remember it all too well, all too well, all too well. I remember it all too well. It's a very simple chorus, but halfway through the song, the chorus changes to, I was there, I remember it. I was there, I remember it. I was there, I remember it. And this happens directly after a lyric talking about how he gaslit her. And what this is showing is that when she was trying to stand up for herself and fix this relationship because she wanted to feel valued and she was comfortable telling her boyfriend that, he was like, no, that's not true. You're being crazy. That didn't happen. I wasn't rude to you. And this lyric is her reminding herself that she was there. She remembers it. This did happen, and he is currently gaslighting her, and she has to remind herself the truth because his gaslighting is kind of working. And I just really love that lyric. I love that shift in the chorus. It's kind of jarring the first time you listen to it, or you might not notice, and then the first time you notice, you're like, has this always been there? I love this lyric. Then this next lyric, it isn't long, it isn't really special, but it reiterates that he was ashamed of her. It is, you kept me like a secret, but I kept you like an oath. Taylor was committed to Jake. She was committed to this relationship. She loved him. She kept him like an oath, and he did not want anyone to know about them. He wanted to keep her a secret. He was ashamed of her. And that was like the major killer in their relationship, is that how ashamed of her he was. This next lyric is a shift in the song of her kind of getting out of that self-pity and getting out of that, this sucks, this feeling sucks, and more into, yeah, that sucked. It's now the roast of Jake Gyllenhaal. And this lyric is, maybe we got lost in translation, maybe I asked for too much, or maybe this thing was a masterpiece until you tore it all up. This is her being like, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe I am a little crazy. Maybe I am asking too much. Maybe this is my fault. Or maybe I tried my hardest and you ruined it. Like, this is a major shift in the lyrics of the song. And if you're not paying attention to the lyrics, the shift isn't that dramatic. The music and the instrumentals and the tone stays the same, but the lyrics in tone drastically change from this point on, especially as shown a few lyrics later when she says, I was never good at telling jokes, but the punchline goes, I'll get older and your lovers will stay my age, which is calling him out for dating younger women, but then being ashamed that Taylor was younger than him in their actual relationship. She went for the jugular in this song. She did not hold back. Honestly, good for her. And one of the reasons I love this song. And I'm almost done. I only have a few lyrics. I'm so sorry. This is so long. And then this next lyric is, you call me up just to break me like a promise, so casually cruel in the name of being honest. This lyric is really self-explanatory. It's him kind of being rude to her and telling her things that are just awful to hear. And he's like, but it's the truth. This is a thing a lot of people do in relationships. It's a kind of a form of emotional abuse, is just tearing your partner down and then covering your own butt by saying that it's the truth, I'm just being honest. Like, it's an awful thing to do. And this is a thing that Jake did to Taylor, according to the song. Then another lyric I like is, they say, all's well that ends well, but I'm in a new hell every time you double cross my mind. This is showing that even months and months and months after, years after this relationship, people are like, oh, you're so much better without him. Look, you're significantly more famous than he is. You're doing way better off, and you're richer. All's well that ends well, right? But she is still suffering every time she thinks of this relationship. She's put back into that cycle of grief whenever he crosses her mind, and she specifically uses double cross my mind because she feels betrayed. She put her everything into this relationship. She trusted him. She tells us that a lot of, in interviews, she tells people that a lot of her firsts, that I can't say because college, but a lot of her firsts she gave to him. She gave him her everything. She was so vulnerable with him, and then he just kind of threw it away. He betrayed her. He was ashamed of her. She felt betrayed, and so when he crosses her mind, he double crosses her mind. I love this lyric. Then these next two lyrics are kind of go together, and they have a very interesting meaning. So the first half of the lyric is, did the twin flame bruise paint you blue? I specifically want to talk about the use of the phrase twin flame. So I had to Google this, because I recognize the term twin flame, but I didn't know what it meant. So a twin flame, if I get the I apologize if I get the terminology wrong, but a twin flame is a spiritual concept of where you and someone else's soul are kind of tied together, and in every life you're going to meet each other and you're going to cross paths, and you're going to have some kind of relationship, whether that relationship is platonic, familial, or romantic. And in this case it was romantic, but it is very rarely healthy. This is a person that you are meant to learn from. You are going to hurt each other, and you are going to grow as people from this relationship. And this lyric is being like, I learned a lot from you and I was hurt. I think that you're kind of my twin flame. Do you feel the same? Were you also hurt by this relationship? Did you also learn and grow from this relationship? And this flows very smoothly into the next lyric, which is the last lyric I'm talking about. I'm almost done. Which is, did the love affair maim you too? Just between us, did the love affair maim you too? And then it repeats, and then eventually changes to just between us, do you remember it all too well? And then the song ends. I love this lyric because it is something that I relate to a lot. It's something that I find myself thinking it's her showing this vulnerability in the middle of this song that millions upon millions of people are going to listen to. She has a moment of talking right to the subject of the song, Jake, and she's like, just between us, did this relationship also mess you up? Like, did the love affair maim you too? Because I'm hurt and I want to know if you were also hurt. Because sometimes when you lose people, whether it's a platonic or romantic relationship, and that relationship left you hurt and scarred, you hope and you pray that the other person was hurt too, because you don't want to be alone in that pain. And if you are alone in that pain, then it's like, then what was the point? And that's just a very relatable feeling to me. In this song, this lyric, this whole song really, but this lyric in specific just hits different, and I really enjoy it. That's all I have. I'm so sorry this video is so long. I doubt anyone is going to watch this. If you watch this all the way through, let me know in the discussion board, because I really appreciate it if you did. If you listen to me ramble on about a Taylor Swift song for 15 minutes now like a nerd, good for you. Like, I'm kind of honored that you wanted to listen to my ramblings for this long. But yeah, so thank you for watching. Bye.